library, normally you try and keep your voice down in here. Now I have to think about projecting out. But and I want to thank the library for hosting this, because it's not often that you get to talk at home. I mean, I didn't come very far, about 5 kilometers to get here tonight, because I live here. And it's different when you're talking in your own world than it is someplace else. And in some ways it's kind of interesting to try and figure out, well, where shall I begin? I mean, the traditional questions in this country, and with Aboriginal people, is who are you and what are you doing here? What's your business? And I guess in that way, starting with Aboriginal people might be one place to jump into this, because in here there are a few stories, more than a few stories of Aboriginal poetry related to the Dreamtime and the cosmos, the Milky Way, and also some stories of my own, because I was drawn here to Australia about 23 years ago and spent a good deal of time in Mullum Lib, and had various experiences there. Before that, I was a symphony musician, a classical musician. But I was deeply put into Aboriginal business here, and while sometimes it feels like when people do a welcome to country before an event, it's kind of like, I pledge allegiance to Aboriginal people who were here before we took it off of them. There is Aboriginal business in this book that is rightly there and importantly there, and something that was part of my intention was to document some of these sources of information that are not widely known, but are important. I believe they're important in the whole sphere of trying to understand who are we and what are we doing here. Now, the really basic questions of life. Who are we? It's a question you can ask every day. Who am I? I'm an overeducated adventurer, a former symphony musician who ended up here and doing early didgeridoo stuff and stuff with Aboriginal people in Central Australia. I've made films, I've done recordings, I've mentored people. For a long time I was a Vision Quest guide, taking people out in Central Australia. I've been a rascal, and I've gotten away with it so far. But I'm doing it off my tail, because the real tale is, for a long, long, long time, all my life, I've been asking these questions: who am I? What am I doing here? And following what Joseph Campbell suggested was your bliss. You know, the thing that actually motivated you and gave you. If something was giving me energy, then that was a source of the place I would follow. As an artist and a person who was aware of what's going on, I was watching events, and all my life just wondered, just how bad can it get? How bad can it really get with all of the confusion, assassinations, you know, I don't have to give the litany of things that we go through. What's really happening? And as I had my last 3 children, 97, 98, 99, my partner and I had babies. 1, 2, 3, bam, 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 into the new millennium. They're now 14, 13, and 11. What kind of world are we leaving them? What kind of failure of nerve has occurred within my own generation that we had these aspirations and we had this opening that occurred that everyone refers to as the 60s, but nobody really knows what happened. Right? Everyone knows something happened, but they can't really say what it was. I can look back into that time and to everything that was going on in politics and in civil rights and in music and in resistance and in Vietnam, and look back at that and go, wow, there's a whole lot of threads here that all come together and they're all weaving a pattern. And that's happening again now. There's a lot of things coming together now in a very serious way. And so when I actually finally sat down to write this book, it was after a period of time. I had an experience in 2008 that was very crystalline and something I really wanted to communicate, and try a couple different media, websites and different things, but it wasn't working. And finally I said, well, it's really a book. And okay, I'll give you, I made a bargain with myself. I said, 3 days. Write for 3 days and see what happens. and I started writing, and then 9 weeks later I had this finished. So when I had this numinous experience to propel me into this idea of Singularia, there was an idea that within myself I didn't need to explain it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that's whole and complete in here. That's right, I got it. That's good. But then at the same time there was this impulse to share. And part of the impulse to share was to share with my children when they were probably my age. That I could write a book and 20 years from now, 30 years from now, they might pick it up and go, oh, this is what Dad was on about. And yeah, man, that's exactly what was happening there. Like we might look back at the 60s now. You know? It's kind of like a message in a bottle in a certain respect. And the message has to do with lots of big ideas. And it's really metaphysics. But it's philosophical, it's poetic, it's anecdotal. I tell a number of stories in here. I tell stories about other people's theories. I go through a way of looking at a concept that if you haven't heard about it yet, you're going to be hearing about it, which is called singularity.